The San Francisco 49ers season comes to a screeching halt, but the offseason is already off and running. We'll talk about where Robert Saleh just landed, who's his possible replacement, who's going to be staying, and that god-awful game against the Seattle Seahawks. Stick around after this. Steph Sanchez and I will talk about all that and more right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, the only podcast that wasn't benched in the fourth quarter on Saturday against Seattle. Steph, what's going on?
We've had better days, we've had better times. Anytime the season ends, it just feels like an avalanche from there. Just a lot of things start to unfold. We got the Robert Saleh news. We've got other coaches on the team interviewing. Questions loom about free agency, draft, Senior Bowl is coming up. This train doesn't stop, as we know. But yeah, man, I'm doing okay. I'm doing better.
You know what else is good is we only have 2 more weeks of being able to use Sleeper, which means you still have a chance to win 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. Pick stats like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more. Up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you can win big. And for a limited time only, new users will get a free $20 entry. And don't forget, if you use our promo code GSP, you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And Steph, you already started it off and you hit on it. Robert Saleh, Cam Ward, you're in Robert Saleh's hands now. Pause. What are we thinking about? I mean, we clearly thought that he was gonna leave, right? Like this is something that there was too many openings, too many job openings, right? And there was gonna be more job openings when playoffs failed, right? Sean McDermott's gone; he's available now. So there was always this high chance of it, but Robert Saleh chooses Tennessee, or Tennessee chose him, whatever it is that you say. Steph, what do you think about it? And are you disappointed that he didn't stick around one more year so we could get those comp picks, just being greedy?
Being greedy is right. I mean, it'd be very selfish of us for him to want to stay, which we all were, right? Yeah. We were hoping for that, but I think he's got to do what's best for him, and for him, that's always looking for the promotion. And that he had a lot of opportunities. I think I was a little surprised that he landed on this one so quick. I guess I was expecting there to be a little more process to it, and maybe just like another week of him interviewing, getting into like final rounds and whatnot. But it seems like both sides made an impression on each other, and yeah, he's going to be with the Titans now. So obviously, I wish him the best. We love Robert Saleh out here, so wherever he goes, we're going to be supporting him. For anyone wondering, no, the 49ers do not get comp picks for Robert Saleh this time around, because he would have had to have stayed 2 years in order for the 49ers to have netted that. He only stayed the 1. So we got a rental. We got a Robert Saleh rental. How do you think the Robert Saleh rental went? It feels like a shame that he didn't have like the full arsenal to work with, Yeah,
I thought it was great, and I think that across the league, people were probably giving him way more credit because of who was there, right? It's funny because we talked about it. I think if Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and this entire defense is healthy, I think the credit goes away from Saleh. I think those injuries actually made the coaching job more impressive, and more people were impressed with it than they would be if all those guys were there. So in a weird way, the injuries made him more of an attractive option as a coach because of what he was doing with less. So it's kind of weird when it comes to that. But I guess the question now becomes, the San Francisco 49ers are about to have another defensive coordinator. This will be the 3rd straight year, and I guess they're going to go with somebody who runs what they want. But if I could get my shit off real quick, Steph, just real quick, I promise this won't be long.
Always.
Can we get one of the better top defensive coordinators in here? That it doesn't matter what you want them to run, they have the better mind. Jim Schwartz, Brian Flores, one of them. Jim Schwartz is still not available to be talked to, by the way. He's still under contract with Cleveland, so they will be able to block that since it's a lateral move. Raheem Morris is somebody who feels like they will come in for an interview because you have to satisfy the Rooney Rule. But this feels like they're doing it all over again, and it's going to end up being Gus Bradley because it's the same system. They're going to run the same thing over and over. Murder me for wanting one of the top guys. I can't imagine how good this defense would be if one of the greatest defensive football minds would be here, Brian Flores, who is, by the way, that can't be blocked. He's not under contract. That can't be blocked. Jim Schwartz can be blocked. But I'm just tired of this, like, oh, we've got a guy in-house that's going to be there. And yes, Gus Bradley's going to keep continuity together. But pardon me for wanting a brand new system, a person who you can put the entire system in their hands and feel good about it. Brian Flores, Jim Schwartz, something like that. Like, the Gus Bradley thing is going to be, it's going to hit like a flat Sprite from McDonald's. That's how well it's going to hit. Like, it's going to hit that bad when they announce it, man. And I guess I'm just tired of it, man. I'm just tired of them having somebody like right there and they're like, well, he's in the building. I don't care. Have we thought about getting the best guy that's available? And you're already paying Saleh the most amount of money that any defensive coordinator is getting. I don't pocket watch, but if you're doing it once, do it again. I don't know, Steph. This Gus Bradley thing is there, and I know it's going to happen, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, whatever, let's go.
Do we know that it's going to happen, though? Like, I know that people are talking about it because it's the low-hanging fruit. It's very easy. It makes sense given their history of who they've hired.
And Kawakami's talking about it, saying, like, it's like, when I start hearing those guys talk about him, it's annoying because I'm like, damn it, they do know something.
Yeah, and they might. I mean, I definitely think he was hired for a reason because you did know Robert Saleh was not going to stay. And so you had a backup plan because you don't want to be in the situation that you were last year where you basically had to settle or like the previous 2 years, it feels like they had to settle. But let's not forget that they did go after Steve Spagnuolo, right? Like, and
they did.
You know, you swing and you miss. And I think with some of the names that you mentioned, there's a better chance that you hit on one of those guys and you can possibly get one of those guys. The question is, do the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, whoever makes these decisions, like, are they willing to be patient on some of these guys? Because as you mentioned, some of them could still get blocked. So given that, how quickly do they want to fill this role? They've been burned before by waiting too long. So like, what's like the right procedure here? I guess if all else fails, then you do have Gus Bradley waiting in the wings. That's probably a nice feeling for them to have because then they could say like, okay, let's take our time and see who else becomes available. At least that's what I would hope, that they would kind of survey the field a little bit and see what options are there. And yeah, I hope they're not too tied to the fact that they want to keep the system exactly the same. I agree. I think there's just some defensive minds in the league that, hey, if you can pair that with Kyle Shanahan on the other side, I mean, we're really cooking with gas. You know what I mean? So, and also, and I've been saying this for years now, the 49ers needed a lifer at defensive coordinator, some guy that sucked ass at being a head coach so bad that 49ers could keep him as long as they want. That's who they need.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's another thing, right? You know, because I was like, you know, I'd love for them to swing on Schwartz and on Flores, and they were like, well, though that's impossible because they run the wide nine. You don't think that those guys can run a variation of the wide nine? Like, I'll never understand that. Why do you think that it's just like the coaches that the 49ers pick that can run wide nine? And I would ask those people, do you know how many teams actually run wide nine? Like, so you mean to tell me if Robert Flores and Schwartz were in here, if they were, again, Schwartz can't be talked to because he's under, you know, Cleveland's control, and, you know, whoever their next head coach could be could kick him out, you know, and say, we don't want you. But why are we acting like this wide nine is something that only like 3 guys can run? And what I mean by that is you can sign a Brian Flores or a Schwartz to do wide nine, and they'll do it less than somebody would, but they'll do it with more creativity. So I want you to take that and throw that out. Like, I don't want to hear that anymore about, well, he has to do the wide nine. They'll do their variation. Just because they didn't do it at the place that they were, they'll still do that. That's fine. And speaking of people that are talking about Gus Bradley, Matt Barrows is talking about it, and I think that Rob has the audio.
Gus Bradley is the next guy up. I think the 49ers sort of, saw what happened with Steve Wilks and Nick Sorensen and realized they didn't have anybody, in waiting, no heir apparent, ready to kind of step in. And they took care of that this year. They knew that Robert Saleh isn't going to be here for a long time. So they brought in Gus Bradley, and Gus Bradley already has a, fairly prominent role. I mean, he would talk to the team every Saturday night before games. So they're used to Gus Bradley. He's a very kind of congenial guy, friendly guy. I see him at their lockers all the time after games. Robert Saleh learned this defense from Gus Bradley. It's not going to be a system change and not going to be a culture change. So I would think that that's what they do if Saleh were to get a head coaching job.
Done deal, Steph. He's chummy, he's friendly, and he's gonna run the system. Done deal. Done deal. I don't understand why we're even wasting our time talking about it being someone else at this point, because it's going to be him. And this is what's annoying about it is yes, maybe you're being a little forthright and thinking, a little bit ahead. But man, it would be really nice to have one of the best defensive minds on football. Like Gus Bradley isn't that. It would be really nice to have one of those guys. And even if they don't, I'm sure Brian Flores wants to be a head coach. I'm sure of it. And I'm sure that there's teams that are going to look at, like now it feels like it's almost a given that he's going to be the Baltimore Ravens head coach, because that's kind of what's perfect. But I'm tired of this whole, like, he's been in the building and he's friendly with the guys. Let's get the best guys. Let's get the best coordinator that's out there. Why are you so set on this when the circumstances change and you have a chance to go talk to Brian Flores, go talk to Raheem Morris, go talk to those guys? Why are you going to bring them in for like lame duck interviews where you have no intention on trying to hire them because Gus Bradley's in the building and he's really friendly with the guys and he talks to... I don't give a shit about any of that, man. Are you better? Who's better? Are y'all trying to get better or are you trying to win games? Like, guys, Steph, you could talk.
No, I mean, I agree with all of that. It feels very safe, right? And I feel like the Gus Bradley move to bring him in the same year that they hired Robert Saleh, I felt like the point of that was so they had a plan B in case, but that doesn't automatically mean he should be the plan A if Robert Saleh leaves. I just think it's that nice to have that if all else fails, we're not in that situation where we were in previous years where we have to settle for someone. If you have to settle for anyone, Gus Bradley, in my opinion, is not as bad as some of the other options they had to settle for in the past. So, but yeah, Tim Kawakami in this tweet says Gus Bradley is a top choice to replace Saleh as DC. That's essentially what he was brought in for this season, but the 49ers will go through an interview process. There could be other interesting candidates. I'm sure there will be. But yeah, we don't really know if the 49ers are actually considering those guys or if, they're just satisfying the Rooney Rule or just, try to do their due diligence, but have no intention of hiring those guys. Like we don't know. It makes sense that Bradley is being heavily considered because I do agree that's why he was brought in. But yeah, you definitely have to explore some other avenues here.
You're ready to learn Gus Bradley is all I'm going to say. And I feel yay about that. Anyway, moving on from the defensive coordinator, which we're going to find out. The 49ers, they signed 14 players to future reserve contracts, essentially the practice squad. And I think Rob has the list, and I'll read them off once they come off. And it's essentially all your favorite practice squad players that you were yelling about not getting on the field ever. They won't get on the field next year either. So we've got Isaac Alarcon, Evan Anderson, Eli Apple, Junior Bergen, William Bradley King, Derek Canteen, Andrew Farmer II, Derek Forrest, who they signed later in the season, Jalen Graham, Adrian Martinez, Drake Nugent, Brandon Parker, Malik Turner, Sebastian Valdez. So essentially, The band's back together. They're running it back with the practice squad. Steph, any of those guys move the needle for you or make you feel anything?
No. I mean,
Me either.
they'll have some days in training camp, I'm sure, but when you're a practice squad guy, it's sometimes hard to crack the roster, but we've seen stuff like that happen. Just no one that's really popping out to me right now.
Yeah, me either. I mean, maybe if they picked up some people that weren't on the roster, but again, familiarity. If you've been here for a little while, we need you back. It's like no one else can ever understand the system. No one else outside. It's like the system is impossible for someone else to learn if you haven't been there for a year or two. It's the weirdest mindset that the 49ers have. But the 49ers are about to have a pretty big roster turnover. And we've been saying that last offseason, going into this season, the unrestricted free agents that the 49ers are going to have, this team's going to look drastically different again. And I'm going to run down the list real fast too when it comes up on the screen. Okay, so we've got Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, Garrett Wallow, Cleveland Farrell, Curtis Robinson, Thomas Morstead, Eric Kendricks, Brian Robinson Jr., Ben Barch, John Weeks, Sky Moore, Kendrick Bourne, Luke Gifford, Kevin Gibbons, Spencer Burford, Jason Pinnock, Matt Hennessy, Patrick Taylor, Trent Taylor, Jawan Jennings, and Eddie Pinheiro. Eddie Pinheiro, 3-year deal, sign it right now. Steph, anybody that is on this list right now that you would consider as a must-have comeback?
Update.
Well, we know who Rob is thinking.
3-year deal for Eddie Pinheiro. He's the only one who actually showed up on Sunday, it seems like, right? Or Saturday,
I mean,
right?
honestly though, of this list, yeah, like he was. I mean, he is probably the most deserving of any of these guys. I didn't mind Brian Robinson Jr. They just didn't really use him for how they brought him in, and I don't know. I guess it was just kind of weird. But Eric Kendricks, bring him back on a cheap deal, maybe, but everyone else, like, whatever. Trent Taylor's a charity case, man. Just
Trent Taylor's not a real person. I'm convinced he's not real. I'm definitely convinced that he's not real.
Juwan Jennings, we'll talk about here in a bit.
Will we?
Don't spoil anything.
Okay. I'm not gonna spoil anything. Yeah, Eddie Pinheiro's definitely got to come back. A bunch of these guys will probably be back, like Kevin Givens and Evan Anderson. Yeah. I mean, you don't suspect that the 49ers are just going to go out there and start spending money after they just showed you that they wouldn't. But essentially, the practice squad is back. They'll have a few of those guys back and just, whatever it is. But yeah, Eddie Pinheiro, you can't let that guy leave the building. Like, what are we doing here, man? When did we?
The fan base actually loves him. Like,
he's
hold
great.
on to that.
He's great. We don't have to worry about kicks anymore. All right. We've talked long enough. This is the first time that I have spoken since the playoff game publicly. San Francisco 49ers season hits a loud thud in the divisional round, 41-6. And Steph, it felt over after the kickoff return.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to watch a football game and the kickoff return happens and you're like, yep, I think that's about it. That'll be all. And it was. Look, tip your cap to the Seahawks. They're really fucking good. And there's a reason that they're going to be playing with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. That defense is incredible. Mike McDonald is owed all the credit in the world. They ran the shit out of the football. They punched the Niners in the mouth. The bullies got bullied in this one, unfortunately. I want to make sure that we go out of our way to give them credit. Because I don't want this to be this and this. Nothing happened other than a good-ass, old-fashioned ass whipping. That's it. That was belt to ass. Mm-hmm. That's not what, my Indiana Hoosiers did to Miami. But my Indiana Hoosiers are champs. The problem is that 9 points over 8 quarters. 9 points. Man, it feels it feels hard. Like watching that game back, every single yard that they gained again, it felt like it was against their will almost to gain those yards. So you have to give credit to the Seattle Seahawks. And Benjamin Solak's tweet is on the screen for the audio listeners. Kyle Shanahan has coached 163 games for the 49ers. His team has only been held under 7 points 4 times. 2 of the 4 have come in January 2026 against the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, you got to give credit to the Seahawks, man. They're one game away from the Super Bowl. They deserve to be. But we have some real questions about this 49ers offense, in my opinion, and the way that they're going about it with the philosophy. Again, trust is a big thing. You were talking about it, familiarity and everything. Obviously, no George Kittle in this game. So you have to throw that in there. The 49ers are desperately in need of speed on this offense to compete with the speed that the Seattle Seahawks have on their defense and across the league. So the league goes like this. Offense has it. Offense is running the league. Defenses adjust. And defenses have adjusted. That's why we don't have many 4,000-yard passers. Nick Wagner says, one thing 49ers are going to have to address this offseason, the need for speed. Thanks for stealing my idea, but okay. According to Next Gen stats, their average top speed this year was 12.81 miles per hour. That was the sixth slowest in the NFL. The only ball carrier to reach a 20-mile-an-hour limit, D. Winters on his INT return in Indy. Those are imperfect measurements, but still telling for the need for more juice. Yeah, you need speed to compete. You need you need offensive line now. Now is when I am sounding the alarm. Okay, you're not going to be able to scheme your way around this anymore. Okay, especially at left guard, you're not going to be able to scheme your way around this anymore. Those days are over because of what Seattle's able to do, what other defense is going to be able to do. Because the 49ers saw the top two defenses, and it was a rough go of it. Now, sound the alarm, offensive line, and you need speed. And what I mean by speed is the guy that you draft or whoever it is you sign has to play immediately. Not he'll play eventually, not he's getting up to speed. Day one contributors. And the 49ers need speed and offensive line as bad as they need oxygen at this point, Steph.
I think what was somewhat frustrating with that is that I feel like they have looked to bring in speed and they just simply haven't really used the guys that they drafted for speed. Jacob Cowan, to be fair, though, has been hurt. We're not sure he even exists anymore. But like Sky Moore, for example, like here's the thing. They bring in speed, but it's not the type of speed that's like going to step on the field, and that makes it pointless because if these players aren't going to contribute, then what are we even doing here? They need a game changer. I mean, that's someone who can turn a game on its head, who could take over a game if they need to. The speed thing, yeah, maybe you can find, a speedy guy who can be a game changer, right? But I just think they need one guy who could do that. And yeah, it does kind of feel like some things are missing. I don't think the offense is their biggest issue, but I think if there is anything missing on the offense, it's just one guy that could be a threat like every single play. And they have guys like, I get it, Christian McCaffrey, he's a threat everywhere, but I don't know. The closest is Debo, and I'm not saying they need a player that same type of player, but I'm just saying they need someone with that attitude, with the juice. Yeah, with that same attitude and could turn a game on its head. Like that's what they had. Someone who can create momentum for you. That's it. So that's something they need to find. I think there's a lot of things they got to prioritize this offseason, and I'm not sure, quite frankly, if they have enough draft picks to address them all. That's kind of my concern right now. But I mean, I think it's clear as day what the needs are for this team. And what I want them to do, especially since they're kind of in this like still retooling years, right? They need to focus on winning the NFC West. And that's tough. That's a tall task, but that's what you have to do if you're trying to make the playoffs. Like, you got to get out of your own division first. And so, the 49ers have Seahawks defense, and they have Rams who could put up a lot of points as well. So you gotta build a team that could beat those teams. And again, that's a tall task, but you gotta be able to be competitive with them. So that's what they need to focus on, because quite frankly, Seahawks, Mike McDonald, he was brought in to beat the 49ers, like Kyle Shanahan. Make no mistake about that. And it's looking like a pretty good investment on their part so far. So 49ers need to kind of flip that script in who they bring in the next couple years as well.
Spend some bread on Alec Pierce, man. Just do it. I mean, his ability to stretch the field, the way that he's been able to look. If Alec Pierce is getting it done with Daniel Jones, for God's sakes, man, let's start to think about what that could look like in the Shanahan offense with his straight line speed. Alec Pierce is not only fast, he's real fast playing football. We did get some good news. Trent Williams is going to be back next season. That was kind of a shocker for me a little bit, for him to talk so quickly and say, yeah, I'm coming back. Just because he usually says, hey, I need some time before we think about that and everything as well, too. So I guess that's a good thing. But yeah, Alec Pierce is the answer in free agency. The problem is you're going to have to put that bread up. And will you? And does he want to come here? So, yeah, the 49ers just, look, you got punched in the mouth a bunch of times. This is like when Mike Tyson gets knocked out by Buster Douglas. Even though it was way closer than that. I'm just giving an analogy on, like, watching him go down. It's just like watching this 49ers offense only be able to operate and get 9 points, and watch Kyle call that awful fucking option play on 4th down with Juice and Christian McCaffrey, and just that, like, scrambling for answers in this game. And it just felt like Kyle just had none. He had none. You have to start to wonder at this point, too. Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 3,000 times last year. You just going to keep leaning on him next year as well, too? I know George Kittle's optimistic, and apparently where his Achilles tear is has him on, with the ability of maybe coming back in week 1, but do you expect that same Kittle guy back? Can you depend on Ricky Pearsall at this point? There's too many ifs. And yes, you're saying it. You said it, Steph. You absolutely, literally have to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to the NFC West, because everybody else is starting to separate themselves. And you have to keep up with players. So this offseason is going to be very interesting, man, in how the 49ers respond to this, because all those guys, aside from the defensive line guys who are veterans for the most part for Seattle, they'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
And Seattle's team. Oh yeah, and Seattle's drafted very well. Okay, mm-hmm. So they'll be back. This isn't a 1-year wonder thing, right? They'll be back. And if they're going to be in your way, and you have to assume that other people in the NFC are going to be able to improve themselves as well too, right? Teams are like one piece away that, all of a sudden next year. So yeah, the 49ers have to keep up with the Joneses. Like, you just watched the team that was running Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne out there and Demarcus Robinson, and Seattle just laughing at you on defense and saying, yeah, keep sending those guys out there. Seattle's defense is what Philly thinks their defense is. and that's the hard part about it, is, yeah, you can create an explosive with Demarcus Robinson against Philly, against Quinyon Mitchell. You're not creating any explosives against this Seattle team. It's just not happening. So I guess the question that I'll ask you, Steph, is, Juwan Jennings, is he coming back because they just need a guy right away that they know who is familiar? Or does he walk because he wants all his money?
I think he walks because he wants to, right? I still feel he's a little jaded by how everything last offseason went down. Begrudgingly, came back for this 1-year deal. Maybe buried things under the rug, although it did seem like there were tensions in the season at times as well. But I think that's going to bubble up to the surface this offseason. It's like, okay, I did my part. I'm out, thank you and goodbye. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. I think the only scenario I see, and it's the tough reality if Juwan Jennings could swallow his pride another time, is if he doesn't get the type of offers that he's expecting out there. And then he says to himself, well, okay, fine. I know the system. I know I'll be featured. I'll come back for X amount and it'll be a cheap deal, right? But there's also the scenario where he's so he's so jaded and has a big enough ego that he says, I'm going to take less money to not play with the 49ers. I don't care if you guys offer me even a little bit more than what I'm being offered here. I'm gone. So I can see that scenario as well. So in my mind, the more likely, way that this goes is him not being on the team.
Here's the second question, and we'll get into we're gonna play a really fun game of fact or fiction. Now that we're 30 minutes in, can the 49ers afford to rely on Ricky Pearsall to be their wide receiver 1 at X next season?
Is this the fact or fiction? Because these were on the.
Well, let's just start it. So let's start it. We'll start it early then.
Yeah. I'm gonna say fiction. I don't think he. Okay, so the way Rob wrote it for us was Ricky Pearsall cannot be the 49ers number 1 wide receiver. I say fiction. I think he will have the opportunity to be, and so that's not a lock, right? I see this playing out very similarly to the D. Winter situation from last season, where the 49ers brought in, a lot of linebackers in that room, more competition, safeguarded themselves basically of not having to depend on just D. Winters and putting too many eggs into the basket of a player that is too often hurt, right? Good for D. Winters that he was able to, take care of his body a little bit better in the offseason and throughout this year, that he was able to start and he looked good. He looked like an improved player. That is what you would want to see from Ricky Pearsall this offseason. And from the 49ers standpoint, you want to see them safeguarding themselves and bringing in guys, because you cannot depend on Ricky Pearsall being your number 1. You just cannot. As talented as he has missed so much time, and you just cannot take that risk. So yeah, they need to get more bodies, bring in some competition. If he ends up being the wide receiver 1 next year, fabulous, but you just can't depend on it.
It just sucks, man, because he's really good. Like, if he was trash and he was hurt, this would be so much easier to talk about. But he's the opposite of that when he plays. He's the one who can get himself open. I think a lot of him, and it's just blame whatever it is that you want to blame. Blame voodoo dolls, blame substations, whatever. He never missed a game in college. Like, what the hell, man? Like, how is it that you made it that entire time and now you're just all of a sudden labeled as injury prone, man? So Ricky Pearsall cannot be the 49ers wide receiver 1 next season. That's a fact. He can't be. And they need to bring in somebody who can be. Would have been really nice if Brandon Ayuk decided to show back up, but whatever, who cares? But if you can find yourself at X and have someone who is like Pearsall at number 2, oh baby. Now you're cooking. Who is that? I don't know. But yeah, there's no way the 49ers can they can't be that dumb to sit there and say that they expect Pearsall to be fine this entire season when he's literally been anything but fine. But he'll get some time to, work on his knee and his PCL. But Rob, give us the next question. I love this segment. Kyle Shanahan is the 3rd best head coach in the NFC West. Fact or fiction?
I'm gonna say fiction, but I think Mike McDonald is on his tail, and I only say that because if the Seahawks win a Super Bowl and both McVay and McDonald have Super Bowls under their belts before Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, it would be really hard to argue against. But I don't think that's as bad as an indictment as some people may make it seem. I just think the NFC West is that stacked, and even before all of this, I've thought that Sean McVay is a better head coach than Kyle Shanahan. And you can find me on that. I frankly don't care. But I mean, the results speak for themselves. And for anyone who wants to argue against that, I would just say the 49er fans make arguments all the time of, oh, we don't have these coaches to just make the playoffs and fail. Well, I mean, McVay has gotten it done. So that's why I look at him as the better head coach. And on top of that, he also has his team competitive over and over again. So that I kind of look at it that way, that obviously as a head coach, the Super Bowls are going to weigh a little bit more. So I'm going to say, as of right now, it's fiction. But it very well could be if Mike McDonald gets a Super Bowl. I would hate that.
You know what you're gonna hate more? Either the Rams or the Seahawks are gonna be the ones who win the trophy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I do hate that. I'm rooting for the Patriots.
I'm rooting for Bad Bunny.
Same.
It's Benito's ball. It's not anything that anything has to do with the Super Bowl. But one of those guys is going to have either McDonald's going to have his first ring or McVay's going to win his second.
It's not a good feeling.
I hate this timeline. I just do. Because people are already, with the, fire Kyle thing and it's like that. Like, what are you talking about, man? Can you stop? Like, I know we're upset. The 49ers could have easily lost that game if they played their best game against Seattle. That's how good Seattle is. You just hate to see the 49ers go out that way. But, yeah, it's fiction now, but, oh, baby, in a few weeks, it could be something completely different. And one of those teams is going to be hoisting the Lombardi in our stadium. I just hope that it's Bad Bunny. Like, they just say, the game doesn't matter. Bad Bunny is a Super Bowl champ, and he gets to raise it. He's like, oh, my God.
Unless you just have the AFC team winning, which at this point, that's what I'm a hope for. But
which Jarrett Stidham's is on his way to the Super Bowl? Like, for God's sakes, man.
Pats, man. Pats all the way.
Pats, baby. Hell yeah. I mean, hey, listen, I never had a problem with the Pats before. They didn't do shit to me. Remember when they had the dynasty? Fine. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to see them win again. Why? What did they do to me? They didn't beat me in the Super Bowl. I hate the Ravens. I hate the Chiefs. Like, they're the ones who actually, like, stopped me from, like, the Patriots didn't stop me from doing anything. Why do I hate them? So, yeah, let's go Patriots. All right, Rob, what do you got next? Fact or fiction, the 49ers defense will be worse next year without Robert Saleh.
I'd rather wait to see who the defensive coordinator is to
Gus Bradley.
Answer. That's right. So assuming it's Gus Bradley, and let's just say all things stay the same, which they won't. They'll bring in more guys, but I think it could be worse. Because I just see when they didn't have Saleh, when they didn't have D'Amico, and all other defensive coordinators, when they didn't have those guys, were pretty bad, So I think it could be worse. Although because of the injury, it's kind of unfair to compare, like because of the injuries that Robert Saleh had to deal with. Objectively, this year's defense was not great, But I'm gonna say, if it's Gus Bradley, I'll say fiction, because I think if you have Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and you add in that Drusher, which they need to, like, could be better.
It's fiction. The 49ers defense will absolutely be better. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Keon White's under contract, Bryce Huff is under contract, Michael Williams will be back. Perhaps this secondary, who has completely regressed, will not regress in the way that they have under Gus Bradley. Call me an optimist, call me somebody who's delusional, but I do think that there's no way that you can get those guys back and say that this defense is going to be any worse when we're running Cleveland Ferrell out there on every single down. And then you have to think about Alfred Collins and CJ West and the rotation of guys. They'll absolutely be better. So give me back Nick Bosa, give me back Mike Kell, give me back Fred Warner. I'll be fine with that. I think they'll absolutely be better because it's hard to be any worse. And also third place schedule for the 49ers. You could win 12 games and end up with a third place schedule. That's still moving in their favor. So yeah, this is absolutely fiction. They definitely won't be worse when you get everybody back. Rob, what's the next one? Fact or fiction, the wide nine is still the best system for the 49ers defense. Steph, wide nine aficionado. Let me know what you think here.
I'd say fiction. I don't know if it's the best, but it's probably what not probably. It's definitely what they're comfortable with. But that's not to say that they can't. I mean, you were saying it earlier. They could have variations of it. They can,
Correct.
even with the personnel that they have. So that's not to say they can't change it, but I think there would be some growing pains with that, which I'm not sure they're willing to go through. But yeah, I'll say fiction.
Yeah, you need players to run wide nine, right? Like, that's not one of those, like, players lift scheme. Scheme does, at times it lifts players, but they're going to keep it because that's what Chris Kosarek's comfortable with yelling at the coaches, at the players about. So I don't know if it's the best system, but it will be the system. So I don't even know if I really answered the question, fact or fiction. That it's just what it's going to be. They're absolutely going to be right back with it because they feel with their personnel is the best way to do it. So yeah, I kind of dodged that one a little bit. Rob, what's the next one? Fact or fiction, it's time for Kyle Shanahan to lose control over the roster to a real GM. Ooh. So, real quick, let me put a buffer on this one real quick. People are starting to speculate because the great Adam Peters is not here anymore, so we don't have him to say that every single great pick was his, even though that Washington team is dog shit and you guys overrated him, and I'll never let you guys live that one down. It's assumed that Kyle is the one telling Lynch, and for me, this is a collective unit altogether, right? Curtis Rourke's a Kyle pick. I knew that, going into this, right? But it's a collective unit. I think some people have more of a say, but it's not like this overruling thing where like Kyle walks in and it's like, oh, you want an offensive lineman? Screw you. Let's take another running back. Like I don't think that's how that works. And I think people are making assumptions of it. I think it's a collective effort of what they want to do and how they want to put it all together. And what about this past draft? If Kyle Shanahan had his hands all over this draft and he's the one who has the most control, why did they draft a defensive player with every single pick, basically? Like, doesn't that scream something different to you, Steph?
It screams they locked him up in a closet somewhere, so it wouldn't make sense. But no, yeah, I mean, I still remember Kyle Shanahan having that like clause in his contract or whatever that he would have final say over the roster. But I do think it's probably overblown, like how much he really uses that privilege, right? I think it's more so in certain moments. Perhaps the Brandon Ayuk.
So there's times where there's times when he can walk in and overrule, right? Like if they've got two guys in the room, right, and they're looking at their board and they're like, this guy or this guy,
he can tip the scale.
Right? He's like, how do we figure it out? And Kyle walks in and he's like, Ayuk, and they're like, send in the card. I agree with that. I think that's what happens.
Yeah. But here's what I'll say to kind of answer the fact or fiction. I think fiction. I think the way this season played out had nothing to do with Shanahan's final say over the roster. So
Correct.
I think this is a little ridiculous. And again, I think his control over the roster is largely overblown. I think Shanahan and Lynch, among, the other guys in that building, scouting department, everyone involved in these decisions, like you said, collective decisions are made. They weigh everything.
Yeah, and if you don't believe that it's a collective effort, then why are teams trying to interview guys that we've never heard of in the front office over and over, including this time? Miami interviewed 3 guys that we don't even know their names, right? Tariq Ahmed is going to be interviewed. If it's not a collective, then why is it that guys that aren't the general manager getting interviews? Like, you have to understand that this is not like a one-man show thing. And if it was, why? And if it's so bad, then why on earth do people want to get a little bit of the sauce from the 49ers and try to take the people that are making the decisions there? Ask yourself that. We have a tendency to blow things out of proportion when it comes to players because we expect them to be impact players already. But people respect the process outside the league. And if you don't believe me, believe the people that are going to asking for the assistant to the general director of personal like, who the hell are these guys? But people are asking for them to be interviewed. So don't don't we're not doing this. We're upset right now, right? We're upset because you wanted Alfred Collins and C.J. Weston. By the way, Upton Stout was really good, and down the stretch, he probably was one of the better football players on the field, right? Like, we're upset because we lost this way, but you can't be upset because guys didn't really get it together in like year one. Like, think about how other people view this team and how they view their process, and why is it that people want to get a little piece of the sauce by asking for people that we've never heard of? The coffee runner to the general manager, the assistant to the coffee maker. All of these guys get interviews, but yet everybody's like, man, this process is really bad. Why is that? Why is that? I just ask yourself that one. All right, what's the next one? Mac Jones will be on this team next year. Fact or fiction? I think it's fiction. Curtis work time.
Fiction.
Curtis work time.
And I will stand by the fact that this was a hell of a move by the 49ers to sign him to a 2-year deal. And I don't want to say it was fortunate that Brock Purdy hurt his toe, but it did give
showcase
Mac Jones the opportunity. Yeah, it was a hell of a showcase as well. And I think with all the changes happening around the league, there's going to be openings for new quarterbacks out there. And I think Mac Jones would make a hell of an option for a team if anyone's interested in a slightly used quarterback. So, yeah, and I think the 49ers need draft picks. So you're going to try to get whatever you can from Mac Jones. And I get they could get a comp pick for him next year. Or actually, it wouldn't even be next year. It would be the year after he leaves for free agency, would be the year after next year. So that's a long time. That's a long time to wait on your return on investment. They need draft picks this year because we're talking about all the needs that they have. And we're talking about the number of draft picks that they have. It's not that many. So I think they need to make this move now, strike while the iron is hot.
Minnesota was already in on Mac Jones before the 49ers signed him. And that was before they even saw J.J. McCarthy take a snap. And it's Diana Rossini's report. Remember, I cover the Vikings. I did some digging and asking around, about J.J. McCarthy and what they think of him. They're absolutely going to bring somebody in. Now, if you're looking at, and they're bringing somebody in not for backup. They're bringing somebody in who can compete immediately.
As they should.
Mac Jones in a Kevin O'Connell offense? Sure. Do you want to be stuck with Marcus Mariota or Tua Tagovailoa or one of these other guys? I think the glove in hand fit is Mac in Minnesota. And no matter what Minnesota wants, no matter what Minnesota offers, I should say, the 49ers have to take it, right? This idea that anybody would send a first or a second round for Mac, let's just get that out of your head. Completely get that out of your head. You're probably going to get a fourth or a fifth at best. And you'll take that because they're better in the later rounds than they are in the early rounds, right? But yeah, I don't think he will be here. And the way that he spoke in the press conference saying, yeah, I believe I'm a starter. Mm-hmm. If I'm Kevin O'Connell and I've got to please Justin Jefferson and I've got to make sure that offense looks way better, I absolutely go for it. And to double back on Minnesota, not only were they interested in Mac, they tried to bring Darnold back, and Seattle sent more money, and they beat them. And they tried to sign Daniel Jones to the same exact contract that he signed with Indianapolis, but Indianapolis told him, you're going to have a chance to start right away. Like, we legit want you to be here to start. And that tipped the decision. So, yeah, Mac Jones, pack your bags, buddy. You're going to Minnesota because, it just seems like a good fit in that Kevin O'Connell offense. And I think Kevin O'Connell's tired of McCarthy's shit. What else do we got, Rob? How many more fact or fiction? Let's do it. The 49ers will make a superstar acquisition this offseason. Yeah, they're going to trade for Justin Jefferson like I want them to. Go ahead, Steph.
I didn't look like you wanted to say something.
I'm not gonna say I'm basically scoffing at the idea. So
yeah, I think this is fiction. I think they're comfortable staying pat and sticking to their plan, and they probably looking at this past season like, you know what? We retooled. We tore the defense down. We were missing 2 guys on defense. Had our quarterback hurt for like 8 games, and yet we still won 12 games. 13 if you count the playoff win. So I think they look at that and they're like, hey, we can continue to go down this path and we could still be competitive. Right or wrong, I think that's what this team does. They're going to continue to be frugal for another year until it feels right to invest for them. And I don't think they feel that they need to do that yet. So while I would love a superstar acquisition, particularly a wide receiver or pass rusher, I don't think they do it.
We got breaking news.
What we got?
Mike McDaniel is the new offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, nice.
Wow. That is something that I did not see coming. And Chargers fans, you got to be happy, man. Because Greg Roman is absolute dog shit.
Yeah,
and he's been
big upgrade.
He's been in this league just because he's Harbaugh's buddy. Man, that's interesting. That's a huge upgrade. So, Chargers coming at the 49ers with former coaches. Shout out to Coach Mike, man. Can't wait to talk to him at the combine. He's not there. He's not the head coach. Damn it. Unless he's pulling up to the spot.
Less pressers for him.
Well, unless he's there and he pulls up to the steakhouse with 7 women like he did last time or whatever. Hey, am I lying? Am I lying? Hey, look, I tell a lot of jokes. I don't be lying. I don't be lying. I'm not a liar. I am not a liar. But good for him, and that's another domino that falls and another job that's open. Could have swore that the best thing for me would have been for him to join the Ravens and help Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. That would have been incredible. But yeah, Rob, what's next? Fact or fiction? The NFC West now belongs to the Seahawks for the next 3 to 5 years.
I'm gonna say fiction because belongs is a strong word, and we see the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers go, up and down, back and forth all the time. And so belongs, I don't know about that, but they are a problem, and they're going to continue to be for the foreseeable future, as Jay noted earlier. Very young team, but when I think of a saying the NFC West belongs to a team, they're winning the division for 3-5 years is what this would read to me, and I don't think that's the case. So,
fiction is the answer. NFL stands for not for long. If you would have asked this question about the 49ers a few years ago, you would have just said, yeah, they're going to run away with the division starting in 2019. They're running away with that division every single year. Circumstances happen, things change. It's a knee-jerk reaction to say that this is now Seattle's division. When you know that the things that are outside of your control, like electrical substations and injuries and things like that, can derail people's seasons. So, I think this is fiction. We got one more from Rob. What do you got? Fact or fiction? Pass rusher is the number one need for the 49ers this offseason. I like this one.
I'm going to say fiction because to me it's a toss-up between pass rusher and wide receiver. I would not be mad at either of those being priorities in the first priority in either the draft and or free agency. So both big needs.
And someone asked in the chat, Fable JVC 2801, you drinking that electrical substation Kool-Aid? I'm not, my friend. I have a brain and I'm being very sarcastic. Okay? Please don't lump me into those people who are dumb. And if you do believe in that, please seek help. Please. Yes. Pass rusher's up there. I will say that. Pass rusher's up there for sure. But the 49ers do need speed, and they do need a wide receiver that can get themselves open. They also need a tight end. Because how much more can you ask from George Kittle at this point? Depending on how the board falls, 27th is where they'll pick. And 49er faithful Dave from PA32 says they need to draft Kamara from Indiana. More Indiana players. They just won a national championship and beat the brakes off of everybody. Who was in here last time? Was it me and you doing the show that we were talking and somebody was in here like, oh, Miami's gonna beat Indiana, and I'm like, no, they're not. Indiana's gonna win the national championship. That's exactly what happened. So that's why Mac Jones is not gonna be here. Maple Missile, Curtis Rourke. The reason that this program got on track to get it to Mendoza was Curtis Rourke. And he's a prototypical Kyle Shanahan quarterback. That's the reason you move on from Mac. It's Curtis Rourke. You guys think I'm trolling. I'm not. I'm dead ass not trolling. I knew for a fact that he was going to draft him. I tweeted it 6 months before the draft happened. There's no way that Kyle's not going to walk away with Curtis Rourke. He is literally the epitome of a Kyle Shanahan quarterback who sees the field. He's big. He has an arm. He throws with timing and anticipation. It's a done deal. Whatever you can get from Mac, then like whatever. Like if you get a fourth or fifth, cool. Bye. Curtis Rourke's your backup, and Adrian Martinez will back him up. So yeah, they're fine with that. Like stop playing with Curtis Rourke. Like I don't understand what everybody's like. Oh, we got to keep Mac and let him walk. What? No, trade him now. You need picks right now.
Yeah,
you need picks. You need picks right now, and you got to strike while the iron's hot, right? C.J. West, Curtis Rourke, Kamara, and you know what else too? Bring me Omar Cooper because you are a San Francisco 49ers. So, all right, Steph. I guess we can talk about it, for like 2 minutes. What's your overall feeling about this season?
I still have positive thoughts about it. I think it was a hell of a run for what they had. And as stacked as last year's team was, they were so disappointing. They just could not finish games. Too often just couldn't care to show up, and this year's team was the exact opposite. They surprised me so many times in which I counted them out myself and I was like, yeah, we probably lose this game, and they won it anyway. And so, yeah, the way it ended definitely stings, right? You hate to go down like that in a playoff game, much less against a division opponent. And, you'll be hearing about it for the foreseeable future until 49ers turn that tide. But, I'm still proud of the season and what they showed. I'm proud of the young guys, especially, on defense, a few that I feel have grown like throughout the season. Upton Stout, Alfred Collins, CJ West, like those guys are going to be all right, and I'm glad that they got a lot of playing time, experience, and looking forward to seeing what they look like next year and who else the team brings in. But yeah, I think we should still continue to have some fond memories on this year for sure.
I absolutely loved this season. I hated how it ended. It ended with a loud thud. But man, the way this team fought, every time you threw something at this team, they kept on going. A lesser team would have absolutely folded. And that's what's got me good for the future, believing in this team down the stretch. Later on, is the culture. Guys are going to be there. Guys are going to get hurt. It's going to happen every single year. Will they continue to fight? And we don't make excuses and we say that, oh, the injuries are happening, this and that. No, you just next man up, do your job. I love the mentality. This is one of the most fun seasons I've ever had to cover. I understand 2023 and all the other seasons. I understand. I'm just talking about from like how you say it, Steph. Nobody believed in us. And how many times we beating Philly, honestly, and I know the Super Bowl or bust people are going to cry about it in the comments and just get your Kleenex. But beating Philly and sending them home, and that's what I'm going to remember from this. I'm going to be like, you know what? Not a bad season. Sending those chumps home. That was, you know what? I'll take it. And I know you Super Bowl or bust people are going to cry in the comments. Just get your Kleenex and keep crying. I said what I said. Sending the Eagles home in Philadelphia. Now, I feel fine about it. Now you got to get back in the saddle. You got to get into this offseason. You got to rebuild this roster. There's going to be roster turnover. You got to find a new defensive coordinator. But we're right back. And even though the season's over, the content never stops with the San Francisco 49ers. So there is no offseason. But I wanted to thank you again, Steph, for going through another season, with me and doing this. And yeah, this is one of the more fun seasons, man. And I'm looking forward to, the content that we're going to have this entire offseason, from Senior Bowl to the Combine and all that stuff. I'm really absolutely, yeah, I'd rather send the Seahawks home. Anthony, yes, clearly, you're missing the point of what I'm trying to say. You can't eliminate Seattle until you eliminate Philly, and Seattle was just better this time. I don't understand that one. We're not. I'm not saying that I'd rather choose one or the other. You had to do one before you did the other. You just didn't get the other one home. But the fact that sending Philly home lost people their jobs, and we can make fun of Vic Fangio's meatballs and Big Dom, and I'm good with that because they popped all the shit in the world. So it is what it is. Control what you can control. Of course, I would love to see them have playing a game this weekend, but I'm straight with sending those bumps home and sending that DoorDasher. Like, look, Jalen Hurts is delivering food right now. He's delivering some hot food right now to somebody because he needs the job in the offseason. So I feel good about that. I feel okay about that. I'm fine. Big Dom is driving Uber right now because he's out of work too. This is way too early. You guys don't like that idea? You guys don't like that idea? I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, I would have loved to have beaten Seattle. Oh, my bad, Anthony. You're saying team-wise. Yeah, for sure. I guarantee you they feel the same way too. But, the fact that they've put Big Dom and Jalen Hurts in a position where, they can make the extra money that they need in the offseason because they're better at those jobs than whatever they do on the field. Yeah, good for them, man. At this point. And, the band's going to disband. A.J. Brown's going to be in another team. I like it because it's the last two times the 49ers have beaten the Eagles. Big changes have come. And Lane Johnson admitting in 2023 that the 49ers broke them. That's one of the best feelings I've ever heard in my life. And to actually send them home in a playoff game, that's what I remember about this season. So that'll do it for this. Well, Big Dom doesn't do DoorDash for my life. He does Uber. That's different. Jalen Hurts is the DoorDasher. That someone got their food 2 minutes earlier because he got tush pushed into dropping them in there. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to the Gold Standard Podcast wherever you get your audio podcast. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. There is a hype button. All you have to do is scroll to the side on your mobile app and move it to the left. It's right next to save. I've looked at it. It exists. Hit that hype button if you're watching this and you have not watched it live. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter, Jason Aponte2103. Steph, what a season. But, don't smile because don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. I'm wearing that out on a daily basis. For Steph and for Jay, we're out here.
Peace.